Hello guys, David Vose here. It's a beautiful day in Alabama and I hope you're having a wonderful day. Well,
So it's really a
oh
purpose-driven.
man, I wanted to share this with you. That first clip speaks for itself, of course. We'll probably talk a little bit more about that here in a minute. But I wanted to show you this because this is pretty interesting. Now this is, as you see here, Mr. Astrotheology, Santos Bonacci, and he posts these bulletins from time to time. And I usually, don't post what he's posting, but this takes the cake. Now take a look at this. He says, the biggest leak in history has complicated NASA's life. Recently, catch that word recently, an image leaked thanks to a glitch in one of Elon Musk's SpaceX satellites. Photo shows walls of ice surrounding our land and shows something more surprising. The sun and moon, much smaller than the Earth, one on each side. This is a solid proof of the shape of our land. This photo will revolutionize humanity and destroy the lie NASA wanted us to believe, but the truth will always prevail. The Earth is flat, and it's time to wake up. There you go. There's the photo, guys. What do you think? No clouds anywhere on the Earth. Well, guess what? That's a painting. And, yeah. So I went to the comments, and I know that maybe in some way this is somehow personal, but they posted these with their names. I don't think that this would be exposing something. I'm just reading the comments because I want you to see that there's no truth to this, and Santos knows it, because he puts a picture up and he makes it sound like he's got this photographic evidence and it's all been leaked. And we all know the Earth is flat now, and they'll all know because of the picture in the leak. And he shows a picture which looks pretty doctored and fake. Talk about fake CGI. I mean, I don't know where this picture came from. Somebody made it up or something. I don't know. But if it was leaked by NASA, I wouldn't even be able to believe it, because maybe Elon, I just saw a link where Elon's saying he believes in the Hollow Earth now because of the Donkey Kong movie. Get it? The Donkey Kong or the Donkey King? Who's the Donkey King? Is it kind of like the Lion King? Only the donkey, remember, that was that animal that Yahweh was supposed to look like. And that's why Jesus came riding in on a donkey, because he had the law of Moses controlled. It was the earthly, physical principalities and powers and dominions that Jesus said, get thee out, and cast them out, and said no, and had dominion over them. But so these comments prove that there was never a link. I looked all over Google. I found no links to any leaks. Now you say, well, of course they got rid of it. Okay, well, if they got rid of it, we can't prove if it was real or not. So how is the world going to know, Santos? How is this proof if it got scrubbed? And if you're going to post it and say it's just, it's out there, it's proof now, show us the link. But he provided no link. And the only reason I'm saying this, Santos, is because your desire or zeal for this to be true is blinding your minds. Santos, if you have proof that the Earth is flat, show us. But stop with the ridiculous, contorted views that we've got to accept. Your religion and your viewpoints and your crazy conspiracies without proof. Just because you're planting doubts in certain people in their minds, because we ought to have doubt against the government. The government's lied to us for for years. We know that. Therefore, Santos, his religion is true. They keep doing this. Russell did this. He said, all the religions are wrong but me. The Mormons are, all the religions are wrong but us. The Seventh-day Adventists, all the religions are wrong but us. Santos, all the religions are wrong but me. And I've got some secret way to know the truth, and you just have to believe me. I'm not going to prove it to you. You're just stupid if you don't believe in me. And the thing of it is that if you're beginning to believe it yourself, and you jump on every little clue and little piece of CGI that someone claims is leaked, or every conspiracy that somebody throws out, as long as it sort of matches with your... I guess somewhere along back in the day, you decided the earth was flat, and now you don't want to be wrong. You don't want to actually look at the evidence. You know, you're not really being objective. You're not looking at objective, empirical evidence. You're just speculating about curiosities and maybes and ifs. But let me look at this, read a little of this and show that there was no link. It says, this is amazing. Where'd I get amazing? This is a painting done by Math Powerland back in the late 2015 or 2016, which I think would be accurate for an infinite plane. All right, so this picture that Santos is saying is a leak from NASA. Somebody's saying, no, this was back from 2015. It's a painting. Now, there's a reply here. I wonder if Santos replies as, oh, no, you're wrong. So, Mr. Astrotheology leaves a link. Let's see what it is. Well, it's in some other language. It's just some drawings, somebody's idea of a map. Okay, and here's this picture. Here's that picture. And what does it say about it? Well, I don't know because it's in some other language. But it certainly looks like a painting to me. I don't know if Santos, if somehow or another all these words in some other language is somehow your proof that that painting is real. But that's very, it's like he put this link up in some other language. So maybe some people will go there and say, oh, it's in some other language, so maybe it proves what Santos is saying. But just take a look at the picture. There are no clouds anywhere in the world. The white stuff you see, that's the ice. It's supposed to be it's Antarctic, it's all frozen. And you see the moon and the sun there in the picture, and they're about the same size. They're very small. Now you can obviously see that if that was a real picture, the sun could be visible on the flat earth anywhere on that pond or whatever you want to call that there. You can see Africa, Brazil, North America, and where that sun is, you could visibly see it because the earth is flat, supposedly. And you could see the moon and the sun wherever you're standing up in the sky, especially if there's no clouds. Now, I mean, if you go to scale the size of the sun and the moon there, compared to the size of, say, North America, and remember, that's from above the earth. But think about it. The earth is supposed to be 25,000 miles around, which would mean about 25,000 miles, from one end of the flat earth to the other, supposedly, or at least 20,000. And so 20,000 miles to scale would be about half of this square picture that you're looking at. So if the sun and the moon is much smaller than 20,000 miles, we're like 1/20th. The whole span from one end of Antarctica to the other end across the ocean is 20,000 miles. So the moon and the sun are like 1/30th or something. Like, how many of those suns could you put between that pond, that 20,000 miles, like 1/30th or something? It's very small. Like, now look at this. I just looked this up. So here's my calculator. And so we've determined that the Earth is 20,000 miles across. The globe theory says it's 20,000 miles all the way around. But if you stretch it out flat, that would mean it'd be 20,000 miles from Antarctic on the one side to the Antarctic on the other side. Now, we said 1/30th. Just out of the top of my head, I just said that. So let's divide that into 30, see what we get. Interesting. 66666. So, Santos, your model says that both the sun and the moon are 666 miles across. Very interesting. Very interesting, Santos. Conspiracy, anyone? Okay, let's say it's 100 miles in the air. Well, then there wouldn't be much difference. So let's raise it up. It's got to be at least, well, they claim it's 200,000 miles to the moon. What if it is 200,000 miles? Let's cut it in half. It's 100,000 miles. I mean, if it's only 20,000 miles to the moon, I suppose we could drive there definitely in a balloon or something, you know? So, I mean, I'm just saying we don't know. This is a picture, and I'm just doing it with common sense, but I'm looking at the moon and the sun, and they definitely don't look like they're very large, and they're not really that high up in the sky. But there's no clouds. It's obvious that this is a fake painting, and Santos Bonacci has gone over the edge and is claiming this is proof. And these are the kinds of proof that Flat Earth uses. It's ridiculous. And a man with Santos Bonacci's intelligence, at least I thought he was intelligent. He's been reading all these books and he knows all this information, but he really, I guess if you really think about it, he's just spinning it some way or another. Now, some people, you might be able to trust them a little bit and follow them and see where they're leading you in this mind maze that they're on, this conspiracy theory. And sometimes they've got some good points, but Santos is just being led along by his nose ring into this big conspiracy that I guess Elon Musk is perpetuating now. You know, supposedly leaking images that are just paintings. And I guess Elon Musk recently leaked something about the Donkey King and the Hollow Earth. So he's making people think like he's on their side. This is ridiculous. But I did find some verification for Santos' theory. We actually have photographic evidence here. Somebody should get this to Santos. This is a bulletin. Watch this. We found this beautiful, very amazing photograph taken by NASA. And they're trying to hide it, but there you go. See, the Earth is flat, and that's proof. And we did capture this other photo because, you know, they got some spaceships wandering around out there behind Jupiter and on into Pluto. And they're getting these beautiful photographs and taking them back, you know, to Earth. And now it's all been exposed. You see, no CGI involved. And by the way, we have also got pictures of the Great Ice Wall. Well, now, I want you to look at that Great Ice Wall. Because remember the other day I said I was going to do a video on explaining the actual shape of the Earth, that I've got this revelation. Well, I'm going to be revealing a few points here and there as we go, building a foundation for this concept that I'm going to lay on you guys that is just mind-boggling and literally takes a revelation to grasp. That's why the Bible doesn't explain the true shape of the universe or the actual mechanism. It does, but it's written in some ancient language and translated into English, and they use the word dust. Man was made from the dust of the earth, right? And there's the serpent shall eat dust. Like, the serpent shall go on his belly. There's very big symbolisms here. The dragon, the serpent, the flesh, the lower energies coming up from the bottomless pit. They're going to dwell down there in the holes of the caves and the rock masses, and they're going to slither around like their little shameful selves, you know, evil-looking serpents. And they'll eat dust. What dust? What kind of dust? Well, the same kind of dust that Adam was made from, well, manifested from. Okay? We were in Christ from the founding of the world. We are the infinite divine being, a reflection of that very divine light. We didn't have a beginning, therefore we will have no end. But we're always growing and expanding and progressing infinitely. Adam and Eve is the source, the light, and they're the exact image, reflection of the Almighty, made in His image. On the first day, the first 6 days of creation, Elohim made Adam and Eve. Male and female made He them, and they were made in His image. They never died. But then Yahweh comes along and forms them from the dust and curses them to till the dust, and it won't produce for them. And the snake's going to eat dust. And dust you are, and dust you shall return. You see, we're going to come back into the elements of this world, the principalities, powers, the elemental particles, which is the world that was created by Yahweh. That Jesus went down into hell and conquered the principalities or the archons. These are the elemental characters, the astrological garden that Yahweh made, the bear and the lion and the leopard and all of these animal characters that are turning around the wheel of rebirth to guard the way to the tree of life. You know, Adam and Eve are just two parts of the same whole. Male and female made he them. And it's only one word there, adim, which is plural. Later on, Yahweh cuts them in half. And they've been fighting and, trying to become one again ever since that time. But it was through the law of Yahweh, the government, the deception, that we were split into this confusing duality of good and evil, light and darkness, up and down, right and left. So the very word Adam means the day. Ada. Dia. Dada. Daddy means light. Dia, the day. Theata, or theos, which is, the Athenian Greek way of saying Zeus. That means the day. That was a sky deity, and it meant the daytime, the blue sky. Dia, the day. Okay, Eve is the night, the evening. Eva, even. She evens it out and balances it. She's the other side. And they split that from the whole. Now that doesn't mean that women are dark and men are light. It's just saying that the universe is a whole, up and down, left and right, male and female. It was Yahweh that made that distinction and made one side the slave and put a veil upon her that you couldn't look because the wisdom dwelleth in there. Her womb, her ovum, was very sacred. It was the abyss that we all came from. For Adam came from Eve, not the other way around like the Judeans teach. But we all came from her womb. The rosy cross, which is the sign of the ink. And that is the beginning of spring in the sky. It's the male phallus symbol and the female vagina. And that is the great symbolism of rebirth. The whole, the yin and the yang, the complete everything, Adam and Eve. And we're all the children. But the reason I show you this picture, take a look at that picture. It does seem to be an ice wall down there, that's for sure. I mean, why wouldn't there be? We understand the physics of that. It's cold down there, and the ice keeps building up. And there's a certain point where the water comes in that's warmer, and it doesn't freeze. And then there's a point where it does freeze, and then it makes this giant wall. Now, and there are currents and stuff like that that makes this happen. So this would be logical, regardless of whether the earth was flat or round. This doesn't prove anything, right? This ice wall doesn't prove whether the earth is flat or round. It's just saying there's an ice wall. We all know that. NASA knows that. There's your picture. Right? There's your sign, you redneck. I mean, you understand there is a ice wall. But that does not prove anything about the shape of the earth. Now, if you look at that picture, it actually almost kind of looks like a globe there, doesn't it? I don't mean that if you look at the top line, you're trying to figure out if that's flat or straight or there's a curvature. I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking about the texture. It looks like from the foreground to the background, it looks like it's all going around and down over the horizon. That's just the apparent visible appearance. But again, it may be an optical illusion. However, my mind, when I look at the world and I look out there, I am impressed that I see the sun coming up and going overhead and then down over the horizon, and I feel comfortable believing that we're on a round sphere. However, that doesn't prove anything. Now, Santos and a lot of these other guys will say, well, now look at that. You see the sun coming through the clouds there? You can triangulate from the rays of the sun, and you ought to be able to see that that sun is not very high in the sky, and it's shining down all around a circumference, like the rays of the light coming around the circumference of the sun, and it's shining down, and you can triangulate that the sun is not very far above the clouds. Well, of course, that's false, because that doesn't prove anything either. It's just people talking. Makes a lot of sense if you don't really understand that there's an atmosphere, like a lens, a oxygen, hydrogen, H2O, and then there's the ozone, and there's this great, like, atmosphere that creates a lens that causes the light to refract when it hits the atmosphere. And so from the point that the light refracts, from the point of your vision, the light is going to refract. The funny thing about this little factoid is that it does prove the theory of relativity. It actually does. Maybe not exactly the way that Einstein meant it, but it does show you that for every person, no matter who you are, your individual perspective, the light is going to appear to be in a certain place. It's going to reflect into your eyeball depending on your viewpoint. So for me, standing on the ground looking through the clouds, I see the sun only straight right into my eyeball. There's one straight line that the light reaches my eye. And I can trace that straight line to some place in the heavens, in the sky, above, and from that point, it's going to refract, but only from my own perspective. If I was standing 10,000 miles away and I was looking at the sun, it would not, it would not appear to them to be coming through the clouds at the same precise point that it's coming through the clouds for me, because it's refracting at that point because of my eye position, where I'm standing. The refraction's happening in my mind. It's relative to where you're standing. And you cannot determine the place of the actual source of the light. You can only determine your own point, your perspective, your viewpoint. So there is some evidence that the world is very much relative to the observer. Now, if you want to know what the shape of the earth is, I'm just going to go ahead and let you know right off the bat here, the spoiler alert, so you don't, have the suspense. But you see this picture? That is the actual truth. I mean, if you were standing at the ice wall, imagine that man's standing on the ice wall and he's looking towards the South Pole or Antarctic, whatever you want to call it. Well, that point that he's looking at is like the Aurora Borealis, or the southern Aurora Borealis. And I don't think they call it Aurora Borealis down there, but I can't remember the name that they call it. But they have the lights at the southern hemisphere, the southern lights. And it's kind of a swirling, like mesmerizing swirl of colors. Well, it looks a little like that, but it really is a point of energy. Down at the very southern tip, the southern pole has this point of energy. You can see the light coming from that point. It is a wormhole. And so light refracts. And what is light? Light is visible energy. And if it continues to bend, it creates, with mass, with this power of gravity, electromagnetism, it pulls reality into form. This world we live in is a hologram. It is simply the mind, which is higher than light. Mind, or thoughts, create thought forms. Mind is like the light. It says in the Bible that our deity, our Father in heaven, and our Divine Mother are light. And there is no darkness in them. They are light. They are spirit. Another scripture says they are spirit. That's the definition of what they are. They're mind. They're light. They're also love, because that's a being feels love. It's awareness, consciousness. And so the mind, if you close your eyes, you see a swirling. If you stare at that swirling when you close your eyes and go into a trance and forget your conscious surroundings, you'll go right into that swirling. It'll take you to your dream world, the forms, the world of forms. But that dream is just the world of shadows because you're not completely conscious yet. You're still being pulled back to the body by the silver cord that Ecclesiastes chapter 12 talks about. So you're still, a little bit in a daze. You're not physically conscious of your body, and you're dreaming all these forms and places that you're going and doing, and then you wake up and you forget about that place. It's as though it didn't exist. It is simply thought forms. Existence is in the mind. So the world is only the form that we in our mind perceive it to be. The world we live in has to be round because all of us are here together and we're seeing our existence, our dimensions extending out from us. We're the source. And it goes in equal directions all the way around us, in every direction, and that would make a sphere. The earth is a sphere, it's a conscious being. The whole solar system, the whole universe is the divine being, and therefore it has a light source, and around it is a circular vortice, as you see the galaxies have. As all other places of abode or homes, forms in which to dwell in, the temple with the 12 gates, though that is the body or the house that the divine being lives in. Now I know a lot of you might be thinking, well, Dave, now that's a nice opinion you have there, and I suppose it's kind of nice, maybe even believable, but after all, you're doing the same thing that Santos is doing. Santos is just grasping at straws, trying to make or prove that his theory is correct when he has no proof. And now you're telling us some other thing that you don't have any proof. Well, you see, I do, but it's a personal proof. I can do it. I can go and look for myself, and you can do it, but not with your two eyes. And I will show you and I will tell you how to do it. You can determine, you will be able to prove what these scientists today are saying, that matter is only an illusion. There is no substance. There's no physicality to anything. It's all energy. And the world we live in is just an illusion. It goes out as far as your mind will allow it to take you. If you keep imagining something in front of you, it's going to be there. Imagine going all the way into the infinity of space. Okay, and go, just sit there and now just travel and travel through the darkness and the blackness of space in your mind, right? Until finally you come to a wall. Well, there is no wall there, but I just suggested that there's a wall there, and now all of a sudden your mind sees a wall. You're making it up as you go. Okay, what's on the other side of the wall? Whatever you think there is. There has to be something there because your imagination never ends. So you start, let's say you brought with you a pickaxe and you start busting that wall, and you're making a hole, and you finally bust a hole through the wall, and you get to peer through the hole, and what do you see on the other side? Well, just more darkness or whatever you imagined would be there. And this goes on forever and ever in an infinite way because it's your mind. It's all concepts of the mind. The mind is infinite. And so, you see, your physical consciousness can only exist around the thinker. If you imagine, you're imaging, you're making forms with your mind, and you are consciously aware of those forms, then they are real. But once you stop being consciously aware of them, they don't exist anymore. You can create another world out of thin air. But as long as you are conscious, in a stream of consciousness, and imagining things in one world or another that your mind is imagining, that world that you're imagining can extend infinitely around you in a circumference as long and as far as your mind will envision it to be. And so it therefore makes a sphere. At some point, the sphere ends in a ball because it's got equal distances around the source of your imagination. But at some point, it ends because we no longer go beyond that conscious paradigm. If we want to get out of that paradigm, we make up a whole new world. We graduate to another class. So, how do I know? Because I've gone there. You can't go there in a tin can propelled by rocket fuel. The only way to get to another world is through the wormhole, which is the swirling vortex of consciousness. You must change your consciousness. You do it every night when you lay down and go to sleep. I learned this because, well, as you know, and I've told this story many times before, once I was thrown out of Jehovah's Witnesses, I went out into a field and I prayed and I saw an angel and the Lord began to answer questions and speak to me telepathically. And then it was at that very same, like within a few days or weeks in there, that I encountered a very special man. Later on, I would find out this would be my teacher. And I didn't even know a lot of this stuff at the time. But this man gave me the laying on of hands and transferred some specific knowledge to me. He became my teacher. This man was the student of a man, you may have heard him. His name is Don Juan. There was a series of books written in the 60s, late 60s and 70s, about this man, Don Juan. It was written by a man named Carlos Castanedas. And he was a writer for some, newspaper or something. He went down there to interview the last of the great shamans from the Aztec Empire. As you guys know, and I didn't know at the time, but I was about to enter into a vast experience with angels and meeting people and learning and going through all kinds of events in my life that would give me an understanding of the world that we live in and what's really going on. But I met a man who I always call lovingly Rusty. Rusty was in northern Idaho. There was a fire in the town of Bonners Ferry. Dad and I went to work for the city or whatever to fight the fire. We met a man there named Rusty. I met the man. I think more specifically, he befriended me, and we spent a lot of time just talking. I went to his home. He gave me books. He taught me many things. And what he taught me was the art of spirit and leaving your body in this world and going to other worlds. What he taught me is how to transform your mind. This is the same teaching that John Dee and many of the other ancient ones were looking for. The alchemical science of transmutation. And that is to change your present consciousness and to experience other worlds and consciousnesses. But there is a certain method that one can use to do this. And if you want to know about this, you can get a lot of information from that series of books called Don Juan and Carlos Castanedas. There were several books in a series. And it's a very fascinating book. So my teacher, Rusty, was a direct student of Don Juan, and I believe the last shaman holding these keys. And that was handed on to me, this knowledge, and I believe that I was given this knowledge so that I could share it with you. Because we're living in the latter days, and this knowledge must go forth to the world, because there is going to be a group of individuals that are going to stand on Mount Zion in the Mount of Transfiguration and be changed in a twinkling of an eye and play upon their 10-string harp, which is the 10 strings of this physical universe. They must harmonize, and we must make that song, the Song of the Lamb, and be transformed and transfigured and changed into beings of light and go in through the wormhole, the gate, the Bethel, or the gate of El, and going right on in to the place where Adam and Eve went, which is out of this wheel of rebirth, going round and round. We have passed over from death to life. We're standing on the mountain, and we're there with the Lord in His presence, and our eye is opened, our third eye, and we look in to the world beyond. Friends, it is amazing, and you will have absolute proof that the world that you're living in is just a figment of your imagination. And not a very good one at that, because it's full of pain and suffering and negativity. And just like your body is a holy temple, and you don't put anything in that body because it's a sanctuary that would harm it or defile it, so too with your mind. And that is the true place that you must guard. Guard your heart. Christ said, don't worry about the outside of the cup. Make sure the inside's clean. But I can hear, some of you probably thinking, well, that's a likely story. Like, I don't believe anything you're saying. Well, what are you going to believe? What are you going to know in your own heart? What are you going to feel in your own heart? You got to believe in something. So you just believe in the things that are in front of you, right? Well, I see it, therefore I believe it. Well, do you feel it before you see it? In other words, are you thinking negative thoughts? Because you don't like it. You're angry about what you're seeing, right? Things are happening you don't like. People are dying. The world's a mess. You're not happy. You don't have a new car. You don't have a new house. You don't have this. You don't have the things you like. Your instinctual nature is driving you to find your next meal. It's all you can think about. Now, why would that be if it isn't real? Well, because the universe is evolving. And when things are in the universe, entities that are placed here, they're placed here to expand and think and image. And in their lower forms, in their more primitive thought patterns, they are producing the best they can. They're seeing a world that's based on a lower nature that the universe has, which is fear, which is ignorance. In other words, you're coming from a point of not knowing. So if you don't know that your thoughts are making the images before you, you can get scared of your own shadow. And this is the problem. We're living in a world where we're not yet awake. We don't yet have the control over our own minds to bring every thought into subjection to Christ, and to understand that we have the authority to command the scorpions and serpents to go back into their holes. That we have the authority not only to cast out the devils, which is a Christian right. Both meanings of that word. It's a right, R-I-T-E, and it's a R-I-G-H-T too. It's your right. You have the authority. You're a child of the living being. You are free to believe and hope and choose. So you're in control. But if you don't care to live a better life, enough to purge out what appears to be giving you comfort and pleasures, this food that you're eating is so good. And you might not have any food during the winter because it's getting to get cold, and so you just start gobbling up all the food. Well, that instinctual nature was built in you from past memories of being hungry. See? And because of ignorance, you don't realize that you were creating all of that due to the fact that you weren't smart enough yet to understand you were in a maze placed here so that you could work your way out, that you could, like when you play a video game, you don't know how you're going to win. You start off, you get bumped off all the time, your man keeps dying. It's like rebirth. You keep coming back and you play the game and you play the game, but eventually you figure out that the man's coming around the corner with a sword, and you're ready for him, and you put your cloak on, or you get your dagger or whatever, and you win the race. You fight the good fight, and you get better and better, and pretty soon you graduate from that game, that classroom. You're educated, you've won the game, you've conquered all the bad guys, you've conquered your fears. No mystery. Just, on a daily basis we do this. Like, we go outside because we don't know what the day will bring. We're curious. We go hunting, we go searching and foraging, and we're delighted by the beautiful sights and the butterflies and the deer drinking out of the clear, sparkling brook. The great mountain peaks with the sun shining down from the peaks and shining down on the glassy ice on the river and the rainbow, and all of this is mesmerizing. And it seems as if it's all just out there and we have no control over it. Like we're not creating this scenery, but it's very harsh. It can be cold, it can be too hot. But it's funny how in our world, it's you never go to a place where it's 500 degrees and, on the surface. Everywhere that humans live, it seems to be somewhat habitable. There is a provision. If you need water, well, there'll be water that will come down from a spring and fill up a pond. And, there's some trees, and the trees somehow miraculously produce fruit. And you look around and you find all the resources that you need to live. How interesting, how synchronistic. The universe seems to be providing all of this around you. Well, who is the universe? We are the universe. We're providing our own habitation. So our subconscious mind is aware of who we are. We started off in the beginning as a reflection of the great light, one with the Father. We came here to learn, to grow, to experience, because we're curious. We like to enjoy and know and experience all of this amazing stuff. Right? That's why you make love to your wife. You've seen her 1,000 times, but every time you want to know more about her. You want to get to know her even more intimately. And it makes you happy. But what happens is if you start getting mesmerized too much by one thing or another, you can end up, getting off the pathway. Your goal is to get to the top of the mountain before nighttime. If you don't make it before it gets dark, you might freeze to death out there. All right, well, that's not fair. Well, it's the rules of the game. And you've got to conquer, and you've got to achieve, and you've got to say, okay, I've got to stay focused. I've got to get to the top of the mountain, and I got to get food, and I got to get this, and I got to get... And so the universe is all one. Everything is a part of the universe. Like your body has a toe, and it has a hand, and it has a leg. These are all parts of you. So the universe is the divine being. Now, if you want to fully enjoy yourself and use all of your parts and experience all of your creation, you're going to have to be consciously aware of each and every part. So sometimes you give attention to your hair, and sometimes you give attention to your feet if they're sore. You soak them in some hot salt water. You aren't always aware of just your thumb. Sometimes you pay attention to something else. And everything around us is an extension of our body. Now, if you don't maintain your body, you die. Well, oh my goodness, what happens? Well, you failed that game. You come back, you're incarnated, you try again. But eventually we get smarter and we become more aware and conscious of who we really are. And we make progress to get back unto the Father, into the light. We learn to put off the fear. We learn that we can do anything. Like, wow, look at the colors. Oh, that's so great. I want to go towards the light. I want to get to the top of the mountain. I want to live down there and taste the cool brook. I want to experience the whole thing. All you got to do is realize this is a beautiful adventure that we're living here in. It's a beautiful adventure. And if we're not afraid, then we're going to have the courage to go places that other people haven't gone. But if we stay in this ignorance, I mean, what if I'm right and the universe is infinite and we've got all this amazing stuff to go and visit and see, and it's going to be great and it's going to be wonderful, and we don't need to be laying around here, crying and thinking about the past, licking our wounds, and now we're so scared and traumatized we don't even want to go across the canyon to see the sunset. We don't even want to experience the dark forest. because there might be a mountain lion over there, and we're too small. The mountain lion's too great. The darkness is too dark. I'm too scared. I don't want to experience anything. I'll stay here in my little cave, and I'll never come out into the light. Well, that's what people do because they start getting scared. And a lot of other people have figured this world out a little bit better than we have, and they know that if they beat us down and scare us, then we're afraid and we stay in our cave, and then they go out there and they get to have the field and have all the resources of the earth. But I could go on and on and on explaining this deeper. I think you kind of get the point. But how do I know any of this? Nobody does. That's the whole point. You can't teach the dog that one day you'll be a human. And you can't rush it. The dog's going to go at his own pace. And don't worry, don't feel sorry for the dog. He's enjoying being a dog. Right now, he's just thinking about dog things, and that's what he wants. He's now ready to start thinking about eagle things, or human things, or any other kind of amazing things. He's now ready. He will when he's ready, when he's learned the other things he's learning now. And there will be some things that will happen to the dog. He might be unaware. He'll trip and fall down a cliff. A cougar will get him. Oh, what a tragedy. Well, he'll come back. And next time, he'll have overcome his fears. And he'll go on to become much greater because he won't be so afraid, and he'll be able to see the other side of the mountain. And during that trip on the other side of the mountain that he's now no longer afraid to see, he learns that, wow, on the other side of the mountain, I realize that the earth is so big and so large, and I'm not just scared of the world anymore. I'm not going to stay in my cave. And his knowledge then grows, and then he gets to come back the next time as an eagle to see it from a view from the clouds or something. And once he experiences it that way and all the other ways, it may take forever because, look, this is an infinite progression. And humans are at a very unique place in this progression. We're at the point where we're literally conscious of all of the stuff that we're talking about, or we can be. And yet some of you are saying, well, I don't believe it because I don't understand it and I don't know if you're right, so therefore I'm not going to believe anything. Just give up. Look, all you got to do is try it. Faith is the assured expectation of things hoped for. Hope doesn't mean it's there, but you hope for it, and then you go towards it to see. You seek, and it will be you will find. And when you get there, you will knock, and it will be opened. You don't know before you knock, but why not have enough faith, a little bit of curiosity, and just knock? I guarantee the universe is not as bad as you think. There is a door that you can go through. You don't need Bill Gates or Donald Trump to tell you if you can or you can't, or the government. You don't need a license or a permit. And nobody can harm you because you're a sovereign entity with you're a free agent. You can do anything you want. And if a devil comes up to you, you could say, in the name of Jesus, get out of here. You have no worries. Your angel always appears before my Father in heaven, and they will guide and protect you. Are they not ministering spirits sent forth to those who are to inherit salvation? Yes, they are, friends. They are the messengers of the divine being. They give messages. But you will never receive a message from the divine being if you think that it hasn't already come. You can't pray so wonderfully that somehow you convince the Lord to love you or to help you. He's helping you right now. He loves you right now. All you can do is raise your own consciousness to the place where you understand that the Lord is there for you, that the resources are all there. All you got to do is open your eyes and look and receive by His grace. It's all provided for you already. You can't get there through many words, Jesus said, by, saying a lot of words. But let your yes mean yes, and your no, no. For your Father knows what you need before you ask Him. But what we have to do, Jesus said, when ye pray, whatever you desire when ye pray, believe you already have it. So you see, before you even say it, you have to believe you already have it. That's how you receive the grand, great love of the Lord and the beautiful things. By knowing the I am within you. By saying, I am the life. I am the truth. I am the way. But you've got to make a decision which way you're going to go, actually. The way of the Christ I am, or the other way. There is another way. The way of the past. The way of vengeance. The way of hate. Jealousy. That is his name. And if you bow to him, you will be his slave. He calls you his servant, his slave. He puts you under his law, a curse and a bondage. And you will be afraid. And the fear will be a prison. And it will be going around and around. And you'll never, ever, ever get beyond the veil. Because the law says you must veil the woman and she has to be quiet because you don't want to listen to her. You don't want to see the other side of the point of view. You don't want to allow the other side freedom to talk. But you want to, kill your enemy. Hate your enemy. Jesus said, no, I tell you, love your enemy. Lift the veil and have communion. This is the great truth. But you've got to begin by understanding that there is nothing in the world that can harm you. Every resource has been given to you. Every opportunity. And the universe is only good. There is no evil except in your own mind. When you dwell on negative things, when you believe Yahweh, who says, I am vengeance, then you're deceived. Jesus says your eye is a lamp. And he says if your eye is focused and singly pointing to what your goal is, it's focused on that goal, then your whole body is full of light. But he says if the eye be darkness, your whole body is full of darkness. In other words, if your vision, if you close your eyes and you don't know the truth, if you're in this ignorance, then you're in a great deal of ignorance. But if you'll just open your eyes, your spiritual eyes, your understanding, your whole body will be full of light. And you will see the divine being and recognize the Christ. And whatever you ask, it shall be given to you. You will say unto that mountain, be removed and thrown into the sea, and it will obey you. You will trample upon scorpions and serpents, and they will do no harm. And whoever believeth my words shall never die. Believest thou this? Friends, we need to start reading the New Testament and receiving the message in our heart and believing it. We're not going to be able to conquer this world of darkness without the light. We need our helmet of salvation, our shield of faith. We need to have our girdle of truth and the sword of the Spirit. And then there is nothing that we cannot do. So there is information in the world that you can get if you'll stop believing the liars who are trying to deceive you, like Jehovah's Witnesses and Mormons and Lutherans and, all these religious individuals that are trying to break everybody up into these little cults where they deceive people and lie to them and don't tell them the truth and tell them that they have to be slaves. Tell them they're the government. You got to obey them. Or if you don't, they'll throw you out and you can't talk to your family anymore. Or they won't let you have a job. Or sometimes, in the old days, they just stoned you to death. But you see, Jesus told them, you can't do that. I won't let you do that no more. So they're just stuck with deceiving people and lying to people. And people are so deceived that they're running around doing stuff, damaging their society, damaging their families, damaging their bodies. And you say, yeah, Dave, well, what can we do? The world's terrible. There's no way out of this hellhole. Well, there is a way out. The truth. That's the way. And the truth you already know. But you just must receive it. You must accept it. You must believe it. Exercise your faith. Don't just say, I've got faith, but you don't use it. You have faith, now go use it. You were given a sword. You were given a helmet and a shield, but you're not using them. Because they will quench every fiery dart that the devil can send you. And if you quench those darts, then you win the battle. And guess what you win? Eternal life. Right now. You don't have to wait for it. See, the 144,000, they're not going to get salvation because they believe some guru. Jesus said, they won't say, here I am, I'm over here, come out to meet him. He says, don't believe them. False Christ and false prophets shall arise. But he says, when I come, it will be like the sun that shines from the east all the way into the west, and every eye will see it. When the truth comes to the whole world, when the truth arrives, well, how's the truth going to arrive that the whole world's going to see it? Well, it's called this parousia. That in Greek means the presence. And he will be in us. Now, I don't mean that there isn't a real Jesus. We were in Adam from the founding of the world. Was Adam a real person? Yes. We're real people. And we're going to have the mind that was in Christ. And it shall be in you. But the only way for the kingdom of the Lord, who has subjects, it's a real kingdom. And it's not based on the laws of this world. This world is a curse, and a lot of people are dying in this world. There's a lot of pain in this world and suffering. This kingdom is a different kingdom, and if you believe in it, you'll manifest that kingdom instead. But you're not. You're scared, and you're manifesting this other kingdom. You're kicking people and hating people and beating people and stealing and lying. Stop lying. Be who you are. You say, well, I don't want people to know that I did this, that, and the other. I got to lie about it. No. For such, some of you were. We were all, Paul was the worst of sinners, consenting to the death of Stephen. But the Lord forgave him and says that he did that to let you guys know that if Paul can be saved, anyone can be saved. Friends, we're all the same. Because when we live in the world, we're doing that because we're ignorant. And the whole point is that we wake up and we are born again and we receive the truth with gladness. So you see, friends, I know what I'm talking about because I've seen it. And when you see it, then when you read the Bible, you go, oh, that's what the Bible's talking about. It's very clear then. You don't have to speculate. But only people who have actually seen it will know. That's why Jesus walked up to Nathanael and he says, you're going to follow me? And he's like, yeah. And Jesus says, there's a man who hath no guile. He says, how do you know? I mean, you've never met me before. Jesus says, I knew you when you were over under the fig tree. What is the fig tree? The fig tree that is it has the two crops of fruit. The fig tree has both good and evil. It's the tree of the fruit of good and evil. See? So it has two crops of fruit. One of them is green and bitter, and the other fruit is good. And Jesus said the bitter fruit, may it never be born again. We have the right to wither that tree up so that it doesn't produce fruit. And what fruit is it we want to wither up? The fruits of the flesh, of the negative side of the world. We do not want to partake of this darkness anymore, the lies and the fear. And it's your choice to say, be thou removed from my life. That mountain will be removed if you say so. And what is that mountain? That is what appears to be a big mountain, but it's just this world, this physical world. It's nothing. E equals MC squared. It's nothing. But you got to believe. And you must command that mountain to be moved with intent, with knowing. Okay? You have to be able to look around you to some degree and see the love of Christ around you. And from there, you begin to say, wow, this is a beautiful world. I'm starting to see how this could be. And then try it. All you got to do is ask. And Jesus promises he will give you an answer. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and go, friends. I hope you have a wonderful day, and we'll take it up again tomorrow. Have a good one.